What good news is out there? What is a positive alternative that could exist in this country when it comes to our electricity, utility, power type field?
Well, there's no alternative. Eskom is the
Mm.
monopoly in the room.
Yeah.
We, s- we, there's no alternative, and why I say that is we see a lot of independent power producers, yes, IPPs,
Yeah.
but ultimately Eskom owns the entire grid. So if you have an IPP, a wind
Yeah.
farm in Darling, you need to get your power to Joburg. You can only do that through Eskom's grid. You can only do that through the distribution networks which Eskom
But if they had to do an ISMO on Eskom, something similar, where they disintegrate the
Yeah.
vertical structures of it.
So this is an important point. It's something that I think should seriously be reconsidered. ISMO, independent system and management operating, which would ideally be an independent company which would purchase electricity from Eskom and all the IPPs and run this electricity through the grid. I think it's worth looking at that, absolutely, to consider it, because at the moment Eskom is saying, well, we don't necessarily need to buy power from IPPs because we've got enough.
Yeah.
We've got more than enough capacity, and the IPPs are costing us a lot of money at times in the day that we don't really need the power. Solar, for example, doesn't work at 7 p.m. at night when the sun is down. So Eskom is saying we fine. Having an independent guy buying and distributing kind of could make sense in that context. This does speak into my biggest problem, and something which which I'm not seeing any clarity going forward, and this speaks to policy and legislation, planning around electricity and energy in general. We are still working on a 2010 legislation, the Integrated Resource Plan, which is hopelessly outdated. The models are hopelessly useless, and this is the plan that is being used to build the current structure for our future. It's completely useless.
It's crazy. I mean,
it's
this thing
crazy.
was supposed to be updated every 2 years, and it hasn't been updated since when? Since 2011?
Since 2011.
Yo.
It's and so we are building blindly.
And now government says they're going to release this integrated resource plan at the end of next year, but they've kept delaying it. They've kept delaying it.
I hope so. I hope so. I mean, I don't know. Will it be released? I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. But without clear policy, clear guidelines saying this is what we must build, this is by when we must build it, this is our expected demand for electricity, this is the expected age of our remaining assets, which nobody's talking about. Eskom's got a lot of its infrastructure is creaking along. It's only really doing a good job now because the demand has plummeted along with the economy. So there's no guideline, there's no policy, there's no plan. We are building blindly, and I'm concerned.
So blackout came when load shedding was a big thing, and the fear of going into darkness was a major issue. And now we kind of celebrate a year without load shedding. Can we see load shedding hit South Africa again in the future?
I don't see why not. Given the indications that I've made, Eskom runs out of money, build program stops, there's simply not enough money to procure coal. The distribution networks across many of the towns is collapsing at an alarming rate. Johannesburg is one example. The grid is very unstable and very old. So I've never felt that we're going to see a nationwide blackout.
Sure.
That's never been my conclusion. Simply because Eskom has, that would be catastrophic.
Yeah.
But what we will see, if the grid becomes unstable or if demand picks up, you will see load shedding, because that's the only way to manage and to prevent a blackout. So will we see load shedding again? How long is a piece of string? Nobody knows for sure. But I think it would be extremely foolish to rule it out forever.
And Brian Molefe, I mean, he seemed to come in there like a real knight in shining armor, and yet now, I mean, people are questioning and are quite critical of certain things. The coal contracts with Oak Bay has been an issue in the media. How has Molefe fared compared to the other CEOs? And I know some people say the whole board and executive should be kicked out of Eskom again. Is that what we really need?
I think it's one positive thing, given existing challenges and criticism perhaps, is the stability in leadership at Eskom. Before Mr. Molefe, we saw, I think it was 7 CEOs in 5 years, 6 chairmen in 5 years, something like 20 different people, including the ministers, 20 different senior people in those top positions in 5 to 7 years. Complete instability, complete lack of at least there's a plan and follow up. So um, in that sense, he's continuing in the position is very good. I think some of his decisions might be controversial. I think it might be worthwhile giving him some time. A lot of the things he's inherited, perhaps coming into a company that might have been as dysfunctional to some extent as Eskom is. The board, I would question perhaps the experience of the board. I would have a look at I would consider that a board of such a technical company like Eskom needs more technical expertise to be able to question the things we are talking about. Example technologies. But at this stage, I believe on the board, I think there's one engineer, and that is perhaps industrial engineer related. I'm not entirely sure. I could be wrong, but there's a huge lack in experience in the industry and technical experience in general on the board. And to me, that is a bit concerning. I think that the board should be strengthened, and the board should remain as independent as possible. And the board is the one that should be asking these questions of the CEO and checking and saying, what about your finances? What about nuclear? Should we really do it? But at this stage, it seems like they might be a bit too much on the yes men side of the equation.